So as Christians, we need to be careful of spiritual attack, and we need to be mindful that all sin has a consequence, and it's not just some sin that has consequence, and to add to that, we need to be careful that we're not moving lines that have been drawn by Jesus. We're not moving lines that have been drawn by God. God said, "Don't cross this line." Jesus said, "Don't cross this line," and we're sort of covering it over with our feet and then drawing another one in the dirt, as it were. It's not very good to be doing that because we are inviting all kinds of trouble into our lives. And I just wanted to use an analogy of a leopard here, which you can see in this picture. A leopard in the grass, creeping, prowling up to its prey, and you can hardly see it. And this is what the devil uses all the time. He will sneak up on people without them realizing and convince them that things which they shouldn't be doing are okay. And how does he do that? Well, through mainstream media, all kinds of influences, film, news, friends, etc, etc, etc. For example, let's take homosexual marriage. You can speak to some even Christian people today and they'll say, "Oh, it's okay, it's good." They'll say it's fine, it's acceptable, it's love, it's fine. And it's moving the lines that were made by Jesus, by God. And it's dangerous. And what's happening is Satan is colonizing the churches with all kinds of worldly opinions. In this, well, it's definitely the end times we're living in now. In these end times, this is what's happening. The world is coming into the church. And again, it's like the leopard in the grass, because the people in the congregation, when they come into the church and they've got the wrong mindsets, the wrong opinions, worldly opinions, that have been moving lines, they've been convinced by all kinds of media that it's correct what they think. Ultimately, they've been fooled by the devil. This is like, again, the leopard in the grass, sneaking up to its prey. We can use another analogy here, submarine. Obviously, you don't see submarines only when they surface, and they're something that they're monitoring. Submarines are monitoring an area all the time. There's always some in the water monitoring beneath the water, unseen, checking, scanning, monitoring, making sure that they know what goes on in certain areas. And it's the same in the spiritual realm. It's also the same with God's angels. They're checking, they're doing His will. And it's the same in the demonic kingdom. They're checking, wanting to do Satan's will. They're looking at Christians. They're constantly there, just like the submarines. They're constantly there, checking, trying to see if they can make any advancements, trying to invade. And in this this time, I would say probably the last 20 years or so, the church has become very worldly, and you can just see it now more than ever. The world has come into the church, Satan is colonizing the churches through the people. And what separates the world from the church, that line has been getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Hazy. The waters have been cloudy. Now, with all this in mind, I just want to play this video here. This is a wildebeest drinking from a pool, and there's a crocodile in it. Before I play it, actually, I'll just mention, because the sound isn't that good, but the narrator, which is actually David Attenborough, he says that when the wildebeest are at their most confident and they all start drinking from that pool, that's when the crocodile strikes. So I'll just play this quickly.
As his confidence builds, he is oblivious to what lurks beneath the surface.
So he gets pulled straight under. I'll just play that again because the quality was a bit laggy there. There we go.
As his confidence builds, he is oblivious to what lurks beneath the surface.
And it was so fast, wasn't it? It was so fast.
The herd is bewildered. Some have never seen a crocodile before.
I.e. the younger ones. So you could interpret that in many different ways. I mean, ultimately, the devil is going to get you. He's going to get you if you are drinking from the wrong pool and you're confident about doing it. You know, one day you're going to pass from this life into the next, whether it's naturally, unnaturally, whatever, and you're going to then be dragged down. The devil will have got you. And if you think about it, just drinking at the right pool can save certain people, can't it? It can save those, if you look at those wildebeest as people, in a sense. You know, we've got to get that right. We can't be drinking from the wrong pool. We can't think that a crocodile infested pool is something that is not going to be dangerous, and we shouldn't be convinced that it isn't dangerous. We should always check. So how do we prevent this? How do we stop this kind of thing from happening? Well, it's about going back to basics. It's about realizing, what does it say in the Bible? What are we changing? You know, we've got to get away from this mindset that the church has to be like the world. No, this is what's happening, and this is how Satan is blurring lines, moving lines. And in the West, there's a lot of this. There's a lot of the world coming into the church, and there is a lot of God's power and God's purposes and God's will that is stopped. It's stopped because people are doing what they shouldn't be doing. They're compromising. They're changing. They're bending God's will, and it's not good. I mean, there are some good things going on in a lot of churches, but there is also a lot of bad things going on as well. And there's also a lot of influence. Younger people are coming into the church nowadays. I know there always have been, that's obvious, but they're having more of an influence nowadays. The world seems to have just got in. The world seems to have got in, especially in the West. And it's affecting God's power in the church. This is why we're not seeing as many people being healed as there should be. The miraculous miracles in the West aren't really happening. I mean, for example, here in the UK, there are some good things happening in some of the churches, but when you look at it as a whole, when you look very broadly across the whole of the UK, where is God's healing power? Where's the miracles? Where's the conviction? Where, there's a lot of churches are like social clubs. It's more of a social gathering than it is really reflecting on God's power. I mean, there's also, I've got to add this in because it's true, there's a lot of good things happening as well, and there's a lot of powerful churches, and there's a lot of amazing things that are happening, and there's some really good people out there, but we just got to be careful that the world isn't pushed in. We're not allowing the world in. We've got to be very careful on that. And I'll leave that up to people to work out themselves, because we've just got to go back to basics. If Jesus said it's wrong, it's wrong. Don't do it. It's as simple as that. And if what is against God, what is perverted, what's against nature, what people know is immoral in any way, shape or form, they should just stay away from it, because it allows Satan to get in. People start doing what's wrong, and sin just abides in the church, and it prevents God's message from really being effective, having power, because this is about God's power. God's power needs to reign in his churches. Okay, all the best.